stroke. That a lot of confusion initially. The Rebbe had a stroke, and it's difficult to describe all the emotions associated with that moment and what that represented. We had experienced the Rebbe's heart attack, Shminat Tzeres, Tavshel Lamed Ches. I was 12 and a half, but I remember it very specifically because my father had put me on the bleachers in the back of 770. That's where my spot was. And I remember when they made us all leave 770, I didn't know where my father was. So I was very scared because I was outside. I had to leave 770. I had to find my father afterwards. He found me, whatever, at the corner. But I remember being very scared. So we had gone through something like that Sidim and Nash had gone through something like that. But this was another shock. Like, what's going on here? What does it even mean? No one knew exactly what's happening because the Rebbe didn't go to the hospital. The Rebbe came back to 770 in an ambulance, and then the rest of the story from that point on, I think people are aware, of what happened. So what does this represent? Why are we Farbrengen? What does this all mean? And I would just add a point, and that is that when one reflects on that whole period of time leading up to Chav Zayin Adar, you reflect on it, you think about it. You don't, even if you don't think about it, you can read about it because others have done the work for us. There were a lot of, you could see already from Chav Beishvat, Tav Shemem Ches, the Rebbe began saying things and doing certain things, sort of preparing for the Rebbe talked about this possibility, this situation. The famous Sicha of Chav Ches Nissen. Many of us were, we here in Pittsburgh, we ran to the Mendel's house, if everyone remembers. Rebbe, all of a sudden, there was a Sicha, Chav Ches Nissen, Tavshin and Aleph. And it was an unusual Sicha, and then the hookup took place at the Mendel's house. I don't know why it was the Mendel's house that night. I don't remember why. But the Rebbe said in the famous Sicha that he did everything that he can do. And now the Chassidim have to, there's very powerful L'shainis words that the Rebbe used at that Sicha that the Rebbe said, demanding Mashiach, but also unusual words, preparing and talking about certain things, a post-Gimel Tammuz reality. In retrospect, the Rebbe was saying such things. And I remember right after the Bindels, we ran over a few of us. The Rebbe said there should be 10 people, or it's a main Benemis. So in Pittsburgh, we decided to run to Aaron Cohen. A few of us ran over to Aaron Cohen's house because Aaron Cohen used to say, meet you inside everyone knows from Aaron Cohen. We'll meet you inside the main gate. Most people don't know. No? Most people don't know Aaron Cohen? Okay, Zach. No. Okay, there was a couple here, Aaron and Marcia Cohen, who they started off living somewhere in Monroeville or whatever, and Rabbi Kosweiss used to go pick him up and bring him to school every day for a period of time.
I actually went out to get them to come to school.
You convinced them to come to school?
There was a Rabbi Weingarten
right.
that lives out there. And he told me once that he has a family there. They may be able to shayach to go to yeshiva. If you want to come talk to them, come to them. Yeah. So I remember going out to them and in the end, they ended up sending their children to yeshiva. And by the way, their children are now shluchim around the world.
They have two sons. One's Shlem is in North Carolina, and then Dov is in England. Scotland. In Glasgow. So they're both shluchim.
I think they already have children
married
themselves
children
that are shluchim.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's the grandsons of Shliach. So Rabbi Cohen would always say, he was a tumler about Mashiach, anything to do with Mashiach. Rabbi Cohen was involved. So he would say, I'll meet you inside the main gate. So that was his greetings all the time. So he was someone who kochzach Mashiach with the seriousness, with the earnestness. So when the Rebbe said that we wanted to go to Rebbe Aaron, get some inspiration, the Rebbe wants people who mean it with an emesh, a shturm, or whatever. But the Rebbe was clearly, he used l'shainis, that language that was unusual, and then talked about, like, I did everything I can, now it's on you. different types of expressions that we hadn't heard from the Rebbe before. So I was thinking to myself, so Chav Zayin Nissen, Chav Zayin Adar, also is in a way, it's the Rebbe maybe preparing us, if you will, for a post-Gimel Tammuz method of communication between the Rebbe and the Chassidim, if you will, whether or not that's the meaning of Chav Zayin Adar, I don't know if that's the case. But the points I want to make are, regardless, they're true regardless. But from that point on, all of a sudden, communication changed between the Rebbe and the Chassidim. But the key word is not that it in any which way stopped, but it changed. There's a different way that today, after Gimel Tammuz, we need to discuss and Farbrengen about a relationship with the Rebbe post Gimel Tammuz, and the recognition that although it's different, it still exists. I just will tell you just a personal thing before we dissect this a little bit and see something good. So I started relatively recently, I started writing to the Rebbe very regularly. Should have done it long time ago. I do write to the Rebbe. I go to the oil. I go write to the Rebbe sometimes on the birthday, a couple to them. But I started writing to the Rebbe. What? The duch. Most of my letters now, the title, not the title, the teichen is help. That's most of the teichen, without getting into the specifics. That's most of the teichen of the. So I began writing to the Rebbe, and the whole scope of the charity time, I gave the Rebbe regular updates, and I also wrote about certain individuals. I'm trying to read whatever this, and how should I go about it, etc., etc. So I began writing to the Rebbe. It's a good thing in itself. It's good just regardless of it. It's a good thing to do.
What did you do? You sent it to the oil?
So I do different things. Sometimes I put it into Nigris and then I take it with me later when I go. And sometimes I go to the website and send a letter that way. Depends. There's a way
it gets to the oil that way.
Yeah.
If you go to the website,
Yeah.
somebody on the other end prints it
Takes
out
it.
and takes it to the oil.
So if it's very, very private, I wonder, are they going to read it? They're so going to read it. So, whatever. It's cheshbonus. So I'm telling you, this is a real story, so you'll just understand what I'm saying here. So this morning was one of those mornings I decided I was have to write a letter to the Rebbe. But for certain reasons, I didn't get around to it. I just didn't get around to it. I didn't like everything else. I make a to-do list, and then either you check everything off or you put it to the next day. So okay, I didn't get around to it. At around, I could take out my phone and I could tell you, I get a text. I get a text. Someone unusual sent it to me also, but that's not relevant right now. I get a text, and whoever it is sends me a picture of me holding Mendel by the Rebbe, Chabad-Lubavitch, Hatzvi-Bais. I'm saying, I looked at the picture. I said, "How did you know? How did you know?" Like, I'm thinking about writing to the Rebbe, and I didn't get around to it. So, to me, like the Rebbe,
I also got it.
You got the picture?
My wife.
What did you get? What did you get it?
I got my father and my mother.
Today?
Yeah,
The same person.
I don't know. It could be.
There are people that do that regularly. That doesn't underestimate what it accomplishes.
Unbelievable. So you went as a kid. Here's a picture.
No, my wife was. It's from my wife.
She was a
She
part of the group.
That's on the group.
So here you have the timing. There's Mendel, holding Mendel, and my father, Olav Shalom, who went with Mikey Butler. Everyone remembers Mikey Butler. He was by the Rebbe, so there's a picture of him there. And my mother, Olav Shalom. So I'm thinking to myself, I wanted to write to the Rebbe I wanted to communicate to the Rebbe. That was my plan because it's important to do. And I didn't get around to it. So the Rebbe sent me what I needed. It was just like a shot in the arm. I got you covered. You didn't get around to writing me a letter. I send you a picture of being by the Rebbe by dollars on that day. To me, it was a meritic chizuk to me, and to highlight the this nekuda that the method of communication changed, but the fact that there is communication, the fact that we can write to the Rebbe and the Rebbe can respond to us is something that we have to remind each other and be sure that we're very in touch with that, because then we can, it's powerful to write to the Rebbe. I don't wait for like miracles to happen, or I don't wait for the results. As soon as I write a letter, I feel like, I did what I had to do, and now everything's going to be okay. Next day, if it's not okay, then I have to do Chayzer Chalil. I have to start all over again. And so first of all, the Chaim, Chav Zayin Adar, just the Chaim. There's I'll just say another word. The Parshas Pekudei, at the end of Parshas Pekudei, we all know, people are very, very familiar with this Nekuda, that at the end of every Parsha, there's a mnemonic. Everybody knows this, right? One or two words. That's the numerical value of that mnemonic. That is the total amount of psukim in the Parsha. There's a lot of important information in what the word that's chosen. For example, you have in Parshas Tetzaveh, you have Parsha. How many psukim are there? That's right. How many psukim are there in Parshas Tetzaveh? There's 101 psukim. First of all, 101, because Moshe, if you spell out the word mem, second mem, shin is yud nun, so the mem yud nun, and hey, the aleph, that equals 101. That's the psuk amount of psukim. The Moshe is there, but he's there hidden, like the Gematria. But what's the word there? What's the word? The word that the mnemonic, it's actually a word, is Malachi. Mem lamed aleph chaf yud. That's the total. That's 101. So one of the Mefarshim explained. I saw this a while ago, but I read that Moshe Rabbeinu, the Eibusha said to Moshe Rabbeinu that instead of me going before you, I'm going to send a malach to go before you. That the Eibusha says this to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is very upset about this. He doesn't want a malach. He wants the Eibusha himself to take the so the malach, the malachi, which is a malach, and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get along. It says the malachi did not return till Yeshua's times, because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to have anything to do with a malach being the one who accompanies Klal Yisrael, not the Eibusha himself. So when does the malach come back? Gematria 101. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu is not there. So the name is very much linked. At the Parshas Pekudei, the Rebbe's chiddush is there's no siman at all there. It's the only parsha in Torah that there's no siman at all. So what does the Rebbe explain? It says nothing. No, so it doesn't say anything. It doesn't. No,
yeah, it does say.
It doesn't say anything. No. Let me explain to you. In the Chumash, it says nothing. It says nothing. Look at the Tzava. What? Before the Rebbe's Kiddush. Before the Rebbe wrote that. The Rebbe said what had happened there. That it was written, B'li Kol Siman. So the Bacher Azetzer saw the Lashon B'li Kol Siman. He said, there's no Siman here, so I'll just take it out. There's no Siman. That's
The Rebbe even said that in the old Chumashim, you take a look, you'll find it the same thing.
that the word bli kol was
Bli kol was there. Bli kol siman.
right. So that's what I'm saying. So the
Yeah,
zetzer.
no, but I'm saying so it does say bli kol siman in
Uh-huh.
the old Chumashim.
Right. Yeah. So the Bach of the zetzer took it out. So right, there was no. So we don't now. The Chumashim didn't have it. They didn't have anything there. That's the Rebbe's chiddush. That was probably said bli kol siman and the zetzer Bach zetzer. That's the Rebbe's pirush. That's the Rebbe's pirush. But in truth, this, if you think about it, the bli kol, which literally translates as without anything. What? Not koil with a kuf. Chaf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's bli chol siman. It's not a kuf. So bli chol, because what's the shaykhs between bli chol and tetzaveh? Excuse me. What is it? Excuse me. Bli chol means without anything. Bli chol means when it's a situation of darkness, of chayshach. When a chav zayin Adar occurs, and people become like, what is this? What's going to be? How will we continue? How will we communicate with the Rebbe? What's going to happen? That's a matzav of bli kol. So if there's something that the Rebbe taught us, it was that's a siman. The bli kol is a siman. The darkness just means that you have to achieve something greater or different than what you experienced up until that point. That's the bli kol siman. So
no voice since then. They call.
זה גם בלי קול. יש כתיבו קרי. בלי קול.
All good.
That's connected also with Moshe's name not being in the...
Moshe's name not being in the parsha is the greatest expression of Moshe Rabbeinu.
But it's also
The
Adar.
The bli chol is a siman. This is a siman. Darkness and void and emptiness needs to be transformed into holiness, into an opportunity, into growth, into development. So communication stopped, communication changed. The relationship changed. It's not the same. You don't go for dollars and physically exchange, get $1 from the Rebbe. It's a different type of relationship. But it's not that it's gone. That this the Chav Zayin Siman is bli kol siman. The bli kol is a siman. Bli having this the Rebbe here physically. We're supposed to stop? It's supposed to end? No. Chassidim have to continue. Chassidis has to continue. Shlichus has to continue. Our Avodah has to continue. Our relationship with the Rebbe has to continue in a change format. And you know, some sit around and philosophize which one's better, which one's worse. That's not important. That's for the big maskilim, the great people. But the fact of the matter is that we have to continue on. Yeah. Yeah. Seeing from L'chaim L'vracha. Rabbi Markel asked that we have a Farbrengen a Chav Zayin Adar, and numerous people asked me why, and I don't know why. I don't know. I didn't make it, so I don't know why. But
even without knowing why, you're explaining it pretty good.
But yeah.
Just because there's no simon to make a Farbrengen, it doesn't really count a Farbrengen.
I'm not complaining. I just don't know the answers to all the questions.
That itself is no simon for the Farbrengen.
Chaim
L'Racha. Oh yeah. La 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 ya da ya wa ya fa Yerusha Seinu. Ay ay ay
There's people from the waiting room. Al gehen de teva nire va nigla.
Adreinu, Mateu Chalkeinu, Yomanayim, Gairaleinu, Yomayava, Yava, Yava, Yerushaseinu, Omanayim, Gairaleinu, Yomayafa, Yava, 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 Yerushaseinu, Ashreinu, Mateu Chalkeinu, Yomanayim, Gairaleinu, Yomayafa, Yava, 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 Yerushaseinu.
Some of them I know.
Chaim L'Rocha. The Sikha from Tafshin Chai, by Yaakov Akudei, Tafshin Chai, where the Rebbe addresses the famous question why so many psukim in the Torah, Parshat Yaakov Akudei, we repeat all of the psukim that were already mentioned in Trumat Tzava. I mean, there's so many mitzvahs that there are a total of a couple psukim in the whole Torah, and the Mishkan, there's such an elaboration. And repetitious. It's repetitious. So there are many different answers to that question. Some say Trumat Tzava is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed, and Vayakab Kudei is when they actually implemented and fulfilled Hashem's commandment to make the Mishkan. The Rebbe talks about there's a Mishkan above, there's a Mishkan below. There's all various types of answers. What's the difference between the Mishkan Shalamayla, the Mishkan Shalamata, the Mishkan we build down below and the Mishkan above? So there's a famous vart. I don't even remember where it comes from, so you'll have to excuse me. The Rebbe doesn't mention this in that, but in addition to being repetitious, the pasuk keeps on saying Kashetziva Hashem es Moshe, Kashetziva Hashem es Moshe, Kashetziva Hashem Moshe. It keeps on repeating that phrase. Why? So there's a Gemara. This will take a minute or two just to develop, but just the point I want to make. There's a Gemara that says like this: what's the halacha if two becheres are born simultaneously? The bechar goes to the kohen. What happens if twins are born? Different opinions. So the Mishnah brings different opinions. And one of the opinions is it's impossible. The lashon of the Gemara is it's impossible that it can happen simultaneously. One of the B'cher came out earlier. It's just you may not know which, but it's the Efshel Tzamtim. It's physically impossible. So there's a whole sugya in B'cher is about Efshel Tzamtim that you can't get. It's not exact. It's impossible that two things can happen and you can get it at exactly the same moment. So the Gemara from there segues into a very interesting discussion about various halachas associated with the kalim of the Beis Hamikdash. It's also associated with tefillin, for example. Let's take tefillin as an example. The Torah instructs us, Talach l'Moshe Sinai, that tefillin have to be exactly square. Exactly square. So the question is, the Gemara says, the Efshel Tzamtzem. You can't. The human being can't. You can't make it exactly square. The Gemara also brings an example that there was a chut hasikra on the mizbeach. There were certain things that had to go above the chut hasikra. It had to be right in the middle, and there are certain things below. But it's impossible to get it exactly right. So the Gemara says, how can you? I'll digress just for a second, if you'll just digress. There's a famous Rabbi Hirschsprung, you brought him to Pittsburgh many years ago. He was the rabbi of Montreal, chief rabbi of Montreal. He also wrote a very fascinating book about escaping the Holocaust. It's in English, very fascinating read. And he knew Shas by heart. That was his thing. He knew Shas by heart. Remarkable. When we were kids, when I was in Guidance New York, he came for the Archei Kala. There's a year, the Shabbos before Chavav. He would come there. A lot of rabbis, the Gedolim would come there, and he wanted the kids to test him on how he knows the Gemara. He'd start a couple lines, and he would just continue it. Anywhere in Shas, you could take a Gemara off the. Anyway, so he asked a group of whatever Bachrim. He said to them, "Let me ask you a question." He said, "There's a Gemara in Baba Basra that says the following. The Gemara says that if someone finds a baby chick within 50 amos of his dovecote, then it belongs to the owner of the shevach of the dovecote. If it's beyond 50 amos, then it belongs to whoever finds it." So the Gemara says that Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question, what happens if one leg of the chick is on this side of the 50 amos and the other leg is on the other side of the 50 amos? I'm just thinking of the Efshel Tzamtzem. So they threw him out of the Beis Medrash. They threw him out of the Beis Medrash. And there's a whole discussion amongst the Rishonim on why they threw him out of the Beis Medrash. The Gemara says gives much more unusual cases than that case where you're not allowed to ask, So the Gemara says this guy, he was just being irritating. It was a pick-a-uni question. It didn't deepen our understanding. Sometimes the Gemara will bring a case that can never even happen, but it helps us deepen the understanding of the halacha. But this didn't lead to anything. It was just stam haknachai. It can never happen. So since it can happen, okay, we know the halacha, 50 amos. So it's nothing that. So Rabbi Hirschsprung asked the question. Let me ask you a question. He says, how long was Rabbi Yirmiyah sent out of the Beis Medrash? Yes. Who knows? The Gemara doesn't say how long Rabbi Yirmiyah was sent out of the Beis Medrash for. No one discusses it. So Rabbi Hirschsprung said, "This, I don't know one Masech by heart, so I can't tell. I think the sugya Rabbi Yirmiyah is, let's say, Daf Chav Gimel and Bava Basra, somewhere around there. The Chassid of Pinchas Altais, and he couldn't stand when someone got up and he said, on Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, the third line says such and such. To him, he was a Chassidish Yid. So one time, a guy got up, and Pinchas was there. The guy gets up and he said, Rosh Hashiva came to an Yisrael. He gave a shir, and he was quoting Gemaras. And so he says, Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis. So Pinchas Alte says, I think it's Daf Lamed Beis, not Lamed Gimel. Rosh Hashiva was very, very embarrassed. Nay, it's Daf Lamed Gimel. So Pinchas says, listen, sometimes you get confused by a blot. It can happen, don't. So the guy runs after he finishes his speech. He gets off the podium. He runs right to the Gemara, and most of the people left already. He chops the Gemara. He opens it up, and he was right. It's Daf Lamed Gimel. He comes, chases Pinchas out. He says, it's Daf Lamed Gimel, not like I said. So Pinchas, you're right. Sometimes you get mixed up by a blot. Sometimes you get mixed up by a blot. So sorry, I didn't realize. So I don't know if it's Chav Gimel or Chav Dalet. Sometimes you get mixed up by a blot, but it's somewhere in Bava Basra that I remember. I know. So Hirschberg said, he says, when do you find Rabbi Yirmiyah's name next in Bava Basra? Bava Basra is the longest Masech in Shas. Kuf Chav Beis, you find it. 90 some. Next time Rabbi Yirmiyah's names appear in Bava Basra. So Rabbi Hirschberg says like this. Abe glanced in a Chassidish yeshiva. By the Chassidim and the Chassidish yeshivas, they learned very quickly. Like in 1 week, they covered 10 blot Gemara. The Rebbe once said that Lubavitch, Abnei Nezer, it was a hybrid of the literature and the Chassidish Shofan. He brought them both together. The Rebbe once said that. The Chassidish yeshivas, if you go learn in Ger, you learn 10 blot a week. So yeah. In the literature yeshivas, you sit on a sugya of 4 lines for a month. So Hirschberg said like this: if you're in a Chassidish yeshiva, he was out of the base measures for a couple of days, 10 days, and they got him right back in. He says, if you're in a literature yeshiva, he was out for years. That's what he said. Hirschberg said. But it just came to my mind because of Ef Shalit Samtze. 1 foot on this side, 1 foot on that side. So the Gemara asked the question. What? So Ef Shalit Samtze. You can never get it right because halach l'moish Sinai, it has to be square. And nowadays we know if you use the measuring tools that we have now, nothing's square. And none of the kalim in the base of the Oren was not 2.5 amas by 1.5 amas. It's impossible. They didn't make. So so the Gemara says when it comes to things that are from the Eibishter, everything's precise and it's exact. But anything, kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe, when Hashem instructs Bnei Yisrael to Moshe to do kach v'kach, right? He recognizes that we're very much imperfect. We're very much imperfect. We can't get it exactly right. By definition, we're human beings, and human beings can't get it exactly right. So what do? We do it to the best of our ability. So the Eibishter tells us make square tefillin. So we make them as square as we can. Put the chut hasikra in the halfway mark on the mizbeach. We do it to the best. We measure it to the best of our ability, and we put it there. But we recognize in the Mishkan lemata, the Mishkan down here below, there's by definition the human beings are involved. So there's imperfection. It's bleak call. We don't have that capacity to do things perfect. There's a recognition. What does the pasuk say? Even Moasu Haboinim Hoisel Reish Pina. Pasuk we say, what does Even Moasu? We say it in Halal. What does that mean? When they built the Beis Hamikdash, they came across this stone, and the stone wasn't straight. It had an unusual shape to it. So what did they do with it? They put it on the side. We can't use this to build the Beis Hamikdash. It's not straight. It's crooked. It's lacking. Even Masu Haboinim, the stone which the builders despise. They didn't know what to do with it. The Evan, Hoisa, when what happened, they got to a certain point. The cornerstone, they were looking for a stone that fits. They went and found that stone that was imperfect, and that fit exactly. Hoisa l'reish pina. That became the cornerstone of the whole being. That's Evan. That's what we say in Hollow. Evan Masa Boinam Hoisa l'reish pina. In other words, in Avodah, that means that by definition, we're bleak call. By definition, we're seriously lacking. By design, we're lacking. By design, we have imperfections. By design, we make mistakes. That's what we do. That's how we're created. Go to the Uman, Leichla Uman, who created us. That's how that. But what do we do with that imperfection? We identify within ourselves an area that's like that Evan, that Masa Boinim, and we turn it into Reish Pina. That's a simon that has to be, we have to transform it to make it into something better. That's Chav Zayin Adar. Chav Zayin Adar is working on ourselves and recognizing that when we're in a rut, when we're in a place of darkness, when we're down, depressed, when we're confused or anxious, or what have you, that can be transformed. We can lean into it and make that the cornerstone and transform it. It's after the area which we feel is the weakest. We can make that into something. The bleak kol can become a simon of who we are and what we stand for. So l'chaim l'bracha, reflect on Chav Zayin Adar, and not philosophize too much. A lot of ink and a lot of speeches have been analysis, but what's clear is what we have to do moving forward, what our avodah is, and how we have to transform the current situation.
Chaim.
It reminds me like the stone was always the right stone, it just was in the wrong place. They tried to shoot it in the wrong place. They say, you know, student, it's the wrong student, it's wrong student. Why don't you think everything has to be square and rectangular? Put it in the right location.
I thought you were going to say, as long as you don't become stoned.
In the end, when you potato or that's when they used
Therefore, will come out as best as a human being can make it.
That's why in every issue, when you potato, gave it to us.
I figured as much. Last night, so off the record about all the financial situation. It's not easy.
But you know what?
I understand. That's why I'm generally good at it. Yeah, please. Yeah.
For Rabbi Yossi. The whole Pittsburgh. It's a funny thing is maybe people who didn't grow up in Pittsburgh, maybe they remember Chav Zayin and Chavav Zayin completely different than I do. To me, it's like a huge.
Saying Tavshin Chavav.
What?
Tavshin Chavav.
No, Chavav and Chav Zayin. Chavav was the dollars. Chav Zayin was the next day. Adar. So it could be like to me. It's like, how can we not have a Farbrengen? It's like, to me, it's like a pivotal day in my life, in my thinking about my connections with Rebbe, going from we were going to dollars with Rebbe, and now we have to learn the Mamad and the Sifis. So it could be in other places. They don't like. Maybe it doesn't mean the same thing. So I just wanted to say L'chaim, Rabbi Yossi, who put so much. This was something that they very much caught on bringing it into. And there were people that this was their first. Was that last dollars, and so Rabbi Yossi, who put so much effort and energy, and it was a crazy. The whole thing was a crazy idea. Thank God, Rabbi Yossi never shied away from a crazy idea, and so Chaim, Rabbi Yossi is certainly Farbrengen here with us on this occasion. Chaim.
He wasn't. I actually was what my office.
Yeah. I hear these things all the time. But it's really okay.
Louder.
He's saying that he heard from Itkin that originally he was going to push off to a different Shabbos.
No, they made this date and they were going to push it off a different date. He called up his father-in-law and he told him that once you make a date that you're going to go, you don't push it off. You take an opportunity and you just don't push it off. And that was the Shabbos.
That was that. He got a visa to go to New York from Paris, from Rouen.
Who?
This is the back.
Then he asked the business because his parents were supposed to come, so he should wait for them. This he told them, if you have opportunity to go.
I'll add another part of the story. That I called Shomer Lipsker and I said to him, "Can you come next week?" He says, "I can't come next week." So we left it.
That's another piece. Basically, there were a lot of people involved in that Shabbos.
He couldn't come.
In arranging it.
He couldn't come.
That was a
worked
piece of
around
it.
Shomer Lipsker's schedule. Yeah.
It was a lot of people were
Lebracha.
involved in that Shabbos and making it happen, and that's why there was such a huge crowd.
It's clear that everyone wanted to see us.
That's 100% the case. He spoke beautifufly. I remember Rabbi Lipsker spoke. Were you there, Mrs. Were you in New York? He spoke. Shomer Lipsker from Miami, from Bal Harbor.
Where he spoke when?
The Farban, where the koil is, we rented upstairs. We got a
Upstairs.
caterer.
The Koil is there now.
The koil is there now. The koil then was on Union.
The Mesifta was also by there.
Mesifta did not go to
That's
the.
why that was probably where.
No, we had a separate program for the Mesifta. Then the buses came and there was.
I was probably in some very odd place making l'chaim with Chen Goodman at the time. That's probably what like, realistically speaking.
Tafshin on base?
I think Chen was here.
Not asking if Chen was here, but asking if you already making l'chaim with Chen and Tafshin on base.
Yeah. Listen, no, the only question, the question is, was I making l'chaim with Chen? Was I making l'chaim? No question. The rules are a little bit, well, they weren't different. We just approached them differently.
Is this this is not like recorded, it's not like
It's recorded going on to hundreds and hundreds of people. It's okay, I'm not worried about
It's just a Zoom, it's just a Zoom.
no, you don't record this.
There's two people in the waiting room.
No, it goes out to hundreds of people.
Thousands.
So hopefully not too many mistagdim.
Chaim.
Just a Zoom.
So this past Sunday, I'll share with the. This past Sunday, I was in Miami, Sunday and Monday, and talking about Rabbi Shomer Lipsker. There was a conference of mechanchim, of menalim, of principals. So four of us came from Pittsburgh. Rabbi Unsdorfer and Rabbi Raskin, Rabbi Frankel, and myself participated in this. Actually, Sunday night, Rabbi Lipsker was the guest speaker. I wasn't there when he spoke, but I heard it was as powerful as when he spoke to us years earlier. To the mechanchim, he spoke beautifully. I heard some of the points, but the first speaker of the program, I actually heard one speaker for 2 hours. Then I had to go do other things, meet other people and whatever. But the first 2 hours, I was part of the. First of all, because it's good to be part of it. It's good to participate with chaverim, etc., etc. But I decided I wanted to hear the first speech. Who was the first speaker? The first speaker, his name is Rabbi Aaron Kotler. He was the first speaker. Who is Rabbi Aaron Kotler? His father was Reb Schneier Kotler, who was the Rosh Hashiva of Lakewood. His brother is Reb Malkiel Kotler, who's currently the Rosh Hashiva in Lakewood. His grandfather is his namesake, who he's named after. His great grandfather was Isis Alma Meltzer. He comes from a lineage of Gedei Yisrael, Litvish leaders. Sorry?
He was the major ones who helped revive Judaism in America after the Holocaust.
The Rebbe.
So this Reb Aaron Kotler is he was the president. He was the president of Lakewood Yeshiva.
Was
Until 2 years ago. He was a president of Rosh Hashanah. He had a budget of $100 million. He's like Rabbi Moshe. Rabbi Moshe Gadlarsky for the two biggest fundraisers in the Orthodox world and beyond, big fundraisers. And so he came and he spoke to 40 menalim and heads of school, which in of itself, just if I say that, when I grew up, my father was my father had like people don't know this about him. He had like I don't want to say rebellious streak, but he questioned a lot. He pushed back against, why and what and how and who. And so my father always told the story that when Rabbi Kotler came to Terevadas to speak, So the whole community said, Gadol, Gadol, Gadol. So my father asked like the obvious question that no one, everyone else was afraid to ask. What is a Gadol? What makes you a Gadol? How do you define a Gadol? And he took a lot of, whatever, heat. He took a lot of heat for asking that question, but he was, he wanted to understand what just fast forward, when he Yutas Kislev, Tavshin Yud, he participated in the Farbrengen of the Friedrich Rebbe, because his good friend, Rebbe Israel Chaikin, was encouraged him to come to the Farbrengen. And he came to the Farbrengen, and it was upstairs in the Rebbe's house, the second floor, 770, and the Bachram couldn't actually be by the Farbrengen. They stayed outside, and in between sichas, you could just look at the Friedrich Rebbe and say l'chaim. My father was gonna leave. He was standing outside. He was pushing. He also wasn't one for pushing. That wasn't his style either. Till later, he got used to it. It was in 70. You couldn't survive later if you didn't push. But those years, it wasn't for pushing. So it's almost like the guy who stays by the seder until the meal, and he leaves right before the meal. First they give him a little onion dipped, and then they talk, and then they find out we're about to start the meal. They give him some morar. So enough
is enough.
So my father was pushing. Wait. He says, how much do I have to wait? I'm pushing. So they convinced him to wait. And the Friedrich Rebbe, I guess they opened the door. Exactly, I don't know the exact arrangement. But he saw the Friedrich Rebbe. The way that my father tells the story, he couldn't look at the Friedrich Rebbe's face. He couldn't. Friedrich Rebbe's face was like something so holy, so the energy emanating was just, he couldn't look at him. And he looked away. And he had no training. It's not like he prepared or he went to Farbrengen or someone told him. He just naturally looked away from the Friedrich Rebbe. And he came back to Tervedas. And he told them, today I saw Gadol. So they asked, how do you find it? He says, it's not something you can explain. You have to experience it. That's what he told him. I can't give over what I saw. You have to be there, and then it's not something you can give over in words.
How old was he then?
16, 17. So I grew up with this, and I grew up with other stories. Our generation, we have a lot of different stories. I don't want to tell all the stories now. It's not Negea, but just sitting there in the room and watching him speak, I was like, this is surreal. Am I dreaming or what? Baron Kotler is speaking to 40 Lubavitcher Menalim. Not only that, he's talking about the unbelievable work of Shluchim. My good friend Mendel Lipschitz in Boise, Colorado, and he helped build a mikveh, this one here, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was such unbelievable ava towards the Shluchim and the Lubavitch. He's no longer in that position. That's
in the position
of Lakewood.
Lakewood.
He's no longer in that position. He left it a couple of years ago, and now he's free to say what he wants. But
and now we can tell the
Or he
truth.
said that first, that's why he's not.
but he told a couple stories. So because he came from Lubavitch, he told his stories. We have to repeat the story. That I think it's worth repeating. His father, Reb Schneier, was a different type of person. His father already had a connection to Lubavitch and a different relationship with Lubavitch. By the way, this is just my own commentary. He talked a little bit about this as well. When he was younger, he most probably was not considered like his brother and the other people to be, the future Gedolei Yisrael, the future Rosh Hashivas. He himself he said it publicly, he was once sent out of class, being disruptive, but the fact of the matter is that he was, his geoinus, his genius, is not necessarily was like his brother in a Blat Gemara and a Ketzos, which he's also by now quite well versed, whatever. But it was in contributing. He's a brilliant business person. Just you hear him talk, and he's understands governance and understands leadership. Baron Kotler, the present one, he was born a little bit after I'll just a side thing. I went afterwards on Monday to meet someone I was trying to see if we can involve someone who had come to share Pittsburgh 25 years ago. He was here with Penzer. He came next time, whatever. So I went to see not Penzer, the other guy. He used to come to share. So I spent some time with him. He's coming to Pittsburgh with us, whatever. So his name is Aaron. So I was telling you, this is Monday. I was under the influence of the fact that he came and his whole story. So he told me, my name is Aaron because I was born a few weeks after his grandfather passed away. So I was named after him. See, my father was very close with him. It was whatever. So he was this type of a guy. Most probably when he was a misunderstood child who went on to become the leader. He $100 million budget he covered it. For many years, and he did it in an unbelievable way, and he transformed the whole way they approach fundraising, and his whole theme was positivity. His whole theme was that there's a letter where I believe Rabbi Posner, I don't remember right now, writes to the Frierdiker Rebbe about all the problems and all the issues and challenges. So the Frierdiker Rebbe says to him, the schus that you have to be read like a very, very powerful letter. So he spoke about this Nakuda that, he says there's not an organization that doesn't struggle every day. He said, but you have to approach it with and with humility. He said that they have dinners there. The dinner in Lakewood has, I don't know how many people come to dinner there. It's probably thousands of people. So he instituted that all the fundraisers, it's probably a 15, 20, 30, how many, whatever. He says that they have to stand by the front and they have to greet every single person. They greet every person. If someone got into their car, drove to an event, you have to greet him. He says, so the Rosh Yeshivas, they're for sure not going to greet. They're in front, and they'll sit in their drush. These are, so one of the guys says to him, it's below my dignity. I should stand in the front and greet everybody. I'm a Bentera. So he said, I said to myself, I have 1 month either to change his perspective or he has to find another job. He says, you have to, the Isis are like Lubavitch are speaking. Like it was a positivity, humility, etc., etc. But he told a very interesting story about his father. He told a story that Lakewood, it used to be, it's like that in most yeshivas in Lubavitch also. Most Talmidim have in their bedroom a toaster oven. And they have a urn to. Now the official rule in almost all yeshivas is you're not allowed to have that. But not only do they have toaster ovens in Chicago, I was told by someone near and dear to me that they put up a sholem even, and there were so many different things. They couldn't. They blow the breaker, the fuse, so they ran a extension cord over the door to something in the hall to plug it in. Like the whole thing was like toaster ovens, sholem pots, urns for coffee. That's a standard yeshiva. That's what you would find, and that's what you found in Lakewood. Everyone had their toaster ovens. These are older bachrim already. There's not. So the city one time began to crack down. It's a safety hazard. It's a fire hazard, by the way. So they cracked down, and they decided that so that the yeshiva had to, yeshivas are put in a unique situation. You have to work with the authorities because you get money for them, or they fine you. So they worked with them, and they said to the bachrim, you can't have any more toaster ovens in your room. But in order to placate the bachrim, they built like a kitchen where everyone was allowed to put their toaster oven, and that's where you could cook your toaster oven. The bachrim weren't happy, didn't accept it. Friday night, he walks into his father's office. This is Rosh Yeshiva of Lakewood. Walks into his father's office, and the room's turned upside down. So bachrim came in and damaged the room. Took things off the wall, turned the couch upside down, caused damage to his father's room. So, not necessarily on Shabbos. They came into the office Friday night, but they did it earlier. He doesn't know when he did it. So he watched his father. His father didn't say a word. He's quiet, doesn't respond. Cool, nothing. Okay. Then Shabbos, he says nothing. Doesn't say one word to anybody. Sunday, he tells the Bachram he's going to give a shmooze. The literature developed to have a shmooze. Usually you do it the second Seder. This time he did it the first Seder. Not important. Those details aren't important. Okay, what's the shmooze going to be? No one even knew this happened. No one. So his whole shmooze was that this is the Oisius in the literature belt. Different Oisius. The thing is that for a Ben Torah is a very, very gehabena thing to be associated with Torah learning. And he gave like a uplifting, motivational speech of the schus of being a Ben Torah who's immersed in learning and lives his life according to the dictates of Torah. That was his speech. And he finished and walked away. And later on he said, listen, he said, if a Bocher can do that, the only explanation is he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't appreciate what he represents. Clearly. So what am I going to start? Give him a lecture on what he's not? I have to work harder at educating him who he is. I have to tell him who he is. That's a story that he told. You know, they say, tell a story. They say that, no. They tell a story. They say that someone who has to say drushes never does tshuva. Never does tshuva because whenever Rabbi Rosenfeld can relate, because he always has to speak. So whenever you hear a drusha, let's say you hear a good word, say, I can use that in my next speech. You're not supposed to just hear speeches and then when you hear something nice, I can use that somewhere else. You're actually supposed to internalize it. When he told the story, I seldom get inspired from it. I usually think, I'll use that my next whatever. That's my next. But this was you can learn from everybody. And the part is that I think this guy himself, Lee Cole, whether it's the kid, it's our own child, we look at and we say nothing will ever come of him or it's a teacher in school, our student, this is like the Evan Moss Aboinim. This guy will put on the side. They're not going anywhere. My father used to have a saying. He would say, this child, his mother has to give birth to him all over again. We got to start all over again. We can't just move forward. She has let's go back to the pregnancy, give birth, and let's try again. That type of thing. Student. My father's. Some students you'll always remember, and other students you'll never forget. So last year, Rabbi Tamboski told us. He said my father was still coming. Last year or two before he passed away, he came to him, to the Hillel. So my father there to look, so he says to my father, "It's Rabbi Tamboski, and you remember he used to say that some students you never forget." He told him that. So he says my father didn't respond. He looked so he says to my father, he says, Rabbi Rosenblum, it's Rabbi Tamboski. So my father says, I heard you. I'm just trying to figure out which kid you are. The one I remember, never forget. He told that he told us this. My father told him. So you have the child or the student or your colleague or your friends that Moasu Haboinim, M Dafne Ibrahim. We have to start all over again. or within ourselves. Within ourselves, we have a certain trait, we have a certain behavior, which we give up on trying to change or transform. It's just who I am. That's what I. But the way to transform, and I would say to you that most people, if you see someone like turn over, like my office is turned over, someone comes to damage. So we go right into this mode of such terrible bachram today, such bad education, parents don't know how to parent anymore, and the whole world is falling apart, and everybody's bad, and there's no future. We might as well close up shop and find something else to do. I mean, that's how most people respond to the kid, to the situation, to the problem. That's a standard way of But the part of the matter is that the kid who did that, of course, they didn't do what was right. But the question is, are we trying to solve problems? Are we trying to change something? Or are we trying to vent that that these things exist and these people act this way? So the bleak coal is a simon, always. And the question always is, what do I have to do to turn the darkness into light, to turn the void into something that from the ayin should become a yesh? That's always the question. What's the best way to get there? The destination is clear. To focus on what didn't work and this and the Gemara says about history. The Gemara says a statement. By the hava, what happened happened. We're not interested in what happened. We're only interested in what happened if it impacts the future, if we have something to learn about how to do something different in the future. We don't care about what happened. By the time he walked into the office, the room was destroyed. It happened. By the hava. It happened. So we're not going to change that. What can you do? We can reflect on what can I do to turn the bleak coal into a simon? How can I turn this chayshach into ur? And that only happens by positive, humble, loving recognition that this is what our shlichus is, to keep on going, keep on working through things personally, communally, etc., etc. That's Chav Zayin Adar. At least that's one person's take. So l'chaim l'bracha. We should continue to transform ourselves, transform our talmidim, transform our community in a positive, forward-looking, problem-solving manner. L'chaim l'bracha. Oh, right.
Double mazel
twins.
tov. A triple mazel tov.
Bar mitzvah.
Beautiful.
So I'll be back for bar mitzvah this Shabbos. Monday tomorrow night I'm leaving for Monday until the 26th.
Hey, Mordechai. That's the answer. To the best of my.
I don't know what we're going to talk about.
To use it as an American line grabber. And if your wife's telephone is on that too, so hers would be $5 extra. I had both, but
Yeah, he was.
and you only pay the day that you use it. If you don't use it, you don't pay for it.
Now the grandson.
Scott.
That was a very big toll. What had happened? Their mother worked for the Adar. Their mother. She knew what was going on there in the program. She knew what they did. So they were walking from his community going to Yiddish. And they ate over his house. They came over his house. He said, don't mention them ever like that. So it became this community, like a whole.
I remember when he died. And I remember that the Rebbe used to go and people there. I remember when he died. They didn't bury him for quite a few days. Yeah, because he went from one place to another. I said by the time we got to Israel, it was so geschmeckt
As appropriate.
as they can get at.
Okay, you can continue.
I'll just say one word along with what Rabbi Rosenblum spoke so beautifully. Just having been there, of Adar, we were all there together, and the whole community actually was very involved in that trip, and that's why it was such a successful trip from the community's perspective. In Kanain Hora, Big Olam, being there, and it was a difficult challenge that we had for whatever reason in getting in to go as a group to the Rebbe, but in the end we were able to overcome it, and we actually went in, and the Rebbe gave beautiful brachas, beautiful brachas to the people that were there, and their actual stories of people that went and asked for brachas and beautiful things that took place. But the Shabbos, that particular Farbrengen that the Rebbe spoke, anybody that was there remembers, and today you can take a look at the Farbrengen, you can see the whole concept was about the power of a Jew, about the koyach of a Jew. Basically, on the one hand you talk ein kan simen or ein kan or whatever, but at the same time, what the Rebbe really spoke about was the perspective, if it's ein kan, if we have the bittul, then the Rebbe says each and every one of us is empowered to do anything we want. Anything we want. That there's an expression, that if we invest effort, energy in accomplishing something, it's not to say, well, who am I to be able to do it? Who am I to raise the money? Who am I to teach somebody? Who am I to? Every Yid, if something comes his way, it's a sign from the Eibishter that you have been empowered. Each and every one of us is empowered. And the fact that we live in a generation that we do today, all the more the reason for us to recognize that today we are empowered to be able to accomplish what we can, considering the circumstances that we're in. So maybe once upon a time, if those big chassidim of once upon a time, if they lived in a generation like ours, they couldn't have accomplished what we can. They never could have brought change a world like the Rebbe did with so many Bali Tshuva, which the Rebbe continues to do to today, in today's day and age. I was at the oil a few days ago, and as I'm standing by the oil, one person after another, and I like to talk to people, and who are you, where are you from, kind of thing. And one after another was saying that they became a Baal Tshuva last year. Somebody else told me this is the first time they're coming to the oil, and they just 2 weeks ago started putting on film because they met a shliach somewhere. Over and over, these kinds of things that are happening today never could have happened. The people weren't around that could have made it happen back then. And today, anyone from the older generation, I was there with my father. He should live long and well. He was there, and he said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe what I'm seeing and hearing. He was listening to these conversations. That what shluchim are accomplishing around the world today, it never existed. So what the Rebbe is telling us and has taught us and shown us then, when the Rebbe talked about, and the Rebbe said, how are we empowered to do it? How are we able to do it? And whole Farbrengen was about, and take a look. Whole Farbrengen was about Achdus. That when there is unity, then you have the ability to accomplish an unbelievable amount. There's a sikha from the Rebbe where the Rebbe says, when the Rebbe spoke about during one of the wars, maybe should help, everybody should be well, and everybody should be matzliach, and we should have an end to it, and the coming of Mashiach now. But the Rebbe spoke about once, and the Rebbe talked about What did the Rebbe institute during the war? The Rebbe instituted that there should be a Sefer Torah, an ois and a Sefer Torah for every soldier that goes out to the war. And what the Rebbe said at one of the, so on the one hand, it's a schus. A soldier has a letter in the Sefer Torah, it's a tremendous schus for him. But the Rebbe took it from a whole different perspective. The Rebbe said when a soldier goes out to war, he can be one soldier fighting the enemy, or if he has a letter in the Sefer Torah, he is not just one soldier, he is thousands. What are there? How many? 304,805 letters in the Sefer Torah. Huh? 304,805. So the Rebbe said it's like any enemy fighting over 300,000 people. Because when you unite, you have the koyach of not just yourself. You have the koyach that everybody has been given, and you're united together with them, and you become one like them. And that's why we are in today's generation, because of the Achdus, and the Achdus is unbelievable. In spite of what we look at sometimes to say there's a disunity going on in Eretz Yisrael, I can tell you without a question, the unity today is like never before. Yeah, there's disunity. I mean, after all is said and done, we're still Jews, so we have to fight with one another. But
especially in Israel.
Yeah, we have
responsibility.
Yeah, you have to fight, otherwise they won't know who we are. But the reality is that the unity is unbelievable today that exists in Eretz Yisrael amongst the people, amongst the soldiers, and amongst everybody. So what the Rebbe has told us and taught us, Adar, or whenever, that we have koyach, a special koyach that no generation before had, and we have the koyach to be able to accomplish everything that we can. And as the Alter Rebbe says in Tani, the Rebbe connects with us in so many different ways, and it's this kind of way that we are today able to accomplish, because we need more koyach than once upon a time. And the Rebbe says that we have the koyach, we're given the koyach, and the Rebbe gives us this koyach. And when we connect with the Rebbe, and as Rabbi Rosenblum said, each and every one of us should regularly, on a regular basis, write to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, write with me, and that connects you with me. Write to me, and whether it means going on a computer and writing, or sending it to somebody that goes to the oil. In the meantime, you can put it into a sefer. I can tell you, talking about a sefer, my father-in-law, Rabbi Darren, when he was in Shanghai, he and his sister were left from his whole family. All the rest of them were killed. But when he was in Shanghai, he was he was the youngest of all the Shanghaiers. So he was a young bacher.
He came from Poland.
He came from Poland, but then through Shanghai and came to America. But what happened is, in the end, in Shanghai, he wanted to write a letter to the Rebbe. And actually, in the letter, which we have now, how do we have the letter? You might ask, he wrote it to the Rebbe, how do we have it? So what he did was, back then, he took the letter, he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and he folded it up and put it into a Tanya. And Rabbi Reichik had a Tanya, he put it into Rabbi Reichik's Tanya. When Rabbi Reichik passed away, the children went through his Svarim and they found this letter in his Tanya, so they gave it to the family, to us. So we have a copy of it. And in it, he writes, his father wrote, he wrote to the Frierdiker Rebbe. But in it, he writes, you can see he's writing, this is somebody who just ran from Poland, doesn't know what happened with his family, and he's writing for brachas. He's writing for brachas. You think that, what's on his mind? On his mind that he should be safe and he should be alive and survive. He writes for a bracha for his parents, who he thought they were still alive, and for his brothers and sisters and whatever. And in the end, most importantly, he writes that he should be Yerushalayim, B'chasid, and Alamdin, and he should be Mikusha to the Rebbe. That's his concern. But the point being that, what did he do? He put it in a sefer, which is what the Rebbe writes, that you should put it in a sefer until you can get it to wherever. So the key is the way we connect with the Rebbe today. Continuously write to the Rebbe, and as the Rebbe said, the Rebbe actually said this to Rabbi Posner in a letter. There's a handwriting of the Rebbe writes, you have to write to me, and the Rebbe will figure out how to get the answer to you. And today there are so many people that will tell you, they write to the Rebbe, they go into the oil. There was a guy, a shliach, who went into the oil and asked that he needed who knows how much money, and walks out of the oil, and the guy walks over to him, I have a stocker that I need to give, and I'm coming to the Rebbe, I want to give it. Do you know anybody that really needs stocker today? Punkt, the guy was ready to give as much as this guy was, as the Rebbe just for bracha. These are stories, real stories that happen continuously. There's people who stand at the oil. There's one person particularly who was at the oil all the time. He should one day write a book. But unbelievable stories over and over and over. I met Dr. Twersky's grandson. Dr. Twersky's grandson. I met Chaim, who's actually, he lives in Eretz Yisrael. I met him in Eretz Yisrael at a chasana, and he tells me he comes to America a couple of times a year because he is a big fundraiser today, a big fundraiser, huge fundraiser. And every time he comes to America, he doesn't leave before he goes to the oil. Yeah, and he says not just that, but every time he comes from the oil, he always has a miraculous story following. Always. He said, volume all, it never misses it. He says, I connect with the Rebbe and these things happen. He says, on a regular basis, these things. So it's our job to do what we have to do. We have to connect with the Rebbe, be connected with the Rebbe. And when we connect with the Rebbe connects with us, and sometimes even if we don't, the Rebbe, regardless of that. So l'chaim, everybody should do what they can, and the Rebbe certainly does, regardless what he needs to for us. And we should have only simchas, gesund, onachas, and most importantly, we should have the Yeshua Gedolah, the great salvation with the coming of Mashiach. L'chaim. See you in the morning. Yeah?
I hope so. I'm just kidding.
He knows and he doesn't say that, Rabbi Zeitz. We understand each other. Anyway.
Now, because that's the way up early. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow.
The case in point.
I remember distinctly in the river. Hey,